Did you know there was an empire where gold couldn't buy anything? For the Incas, gold was the sweat of the sun. Sacred, not money. The Coricancha in Cusco had solid gold walls and a garden where everything was replicated in gold. Llamas, corn, flowers. In 1532, Atahualpa offered to fill a room with gold to save his life. For months, 6 tons of sacred objects arrived. Ceremonial masks, solar discs, and surgical tumis that connected the Incas with their gods. Pizarro ordered everything melted. The Inca goldsmiths themselves were forced to melt millennia of sacred knowledge into simple ingots. Each object that fell into the fire was a library, burning forever. They executed Atahualpa on July 26, 1533. The Spanish took the gold. The spirit of the Sun Empire survives, carved in every stone of Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman. What other Inca mystery would you like to discover? The Quipas or the Capac Ñan Roads? Comment below because there are Andean secrets waiting to be revealed.